The spring wind howled through Austin, Texas, carrying dust and whispers of violence through the streets. Inside the Red River gambling hall, a woman's voice cut through the cigar smoke like a knife through silk. "Touch those cards again, and you'll be leaving without fingers." Delilah Monroe stood at the poker table, her emerald eyes blazing beneath the gaslight chandelier. Her reputation preceded her, the sharpest card dealer in Texas and the most dangerous woman to cross. 3 cowboys sat frozen at her table, their hands hovering over the disputed pot of gold coins. The largest man, a brute named Sullivan, slammed his fist down. "You're a cheating woman. Everyone knows it." Before Delilah could respond, the saloon doors burst open. A tall figure stepped inside, spurs jingling with each deliberate step. The stranger wore a duster coat darkened by trail dust, and his eyes, steel gray and unwavering, swept across the room before settling on the confrontation. "The lady doesn't cheat," the cowboy said, his voice low and steady. "She doesn't need to." Sullivan rose, his chair scraping against the wooden floor. "This ain't your concern, stranger." The cowboy moved closer, revealing a marshal's badge pinned to his vest. "When a man accuses an honest dealer in my town, it becomes my concern. Name's Wyatt Buchanan, and I suggest you apologize to Miss Monroe." The tension crackled like lightning before a storm. Sullivan's hand drifted toward his revolver, and every patron held their breath, sensing that blood was about to spill on the sawdust floor. "Before we move on, take a break with me, Joe. Pour yourself a warm cup of tea. Settle in and tell me what time it is, where you're listening from, and if you're enjoying this story so far, consider subscribing it. Helps more than you know. Wyatt's hand rested on his own weapon, but his expression remained calm, almost bored. This wasn't his first standoff, and everyone in the room knew it. "I'm waiting," Wyatt said, his eyes never leaving Sullivan's face. The gambler's bravado crumbled under the marshal's steady gaze. Sullivan muttered something that might have been an apology and stormed out, his companions scrambling after him. The room exhaled collectively, and conversation gradually resumed. Delilah gathered her cards with practiced efficiency, her face betraying no emotion. "I didn't need rescuing, Marshal." "Didn't figure you did," Wyatt replied, settling into the vacant chair across from her. "But Sullivan's been itching for trouble since he rode into town. Better to end it before it starts." She studied him with those piercing green eyes, trying to read the man beneath the badge. Most lawmen treated women like her, gamblers, saloon workers, with barely concealed contempt. But Wyatt Buchanan looked at her like she was simply another person deserving respect. "Why'd you really step in?" she asked, shuffling the deck with fluid grace. Wyatt leaned back, a hint of a smile touching his weathered face. "Watched you deal 3 nights running. You've got honest hands, fastest I've ever seen, but honest." Something flickered across Delilah's features, surprise, perhaps, or suspicion. "You've been watching me?" "Part of the job," he said simply, "though I'll admit it became more pleasure than duty." The admission hung between them, weighted with possibility. Delilah's fingers paused mid-shuffle, and for the first time in years she felt something stir in her carefully guarded heart. What could a marshal possibly want with a woman like her? And more importantly, what danger was she about to bring into his life? 3 days passed, and spring rain hammered Austin streets into rivers of mud. Delilah stood under the awning of the general store, watching water cascade from the roof. A shadow fell across her, and she didn't need to turn to know who it was. She'd become attuned to Wyatt's presence like a compass needle to north. "You're getting predictable, Marshal," she said without looking, "following me in broad daylight." Wyatt stepped beside her, close enough that she caught the scent of leather and sage. "Maybe I want to be predictable where you're concerned." She finally turned to face him, and the intensity in his gray eyes made her breath catch. "You should stay away from me." "Should I?" He tilted his head slightly. "Why's that?" Delilah's jaw tightened. "Because I'm not what you think I am. I'm not some innocent flower needing protection. My past—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "My past is full of mistakes, dangerous ones." "We've all got history," Wyatt said quietly. "Not like mine." Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "I've done things, been involved with people who'd kill you just for standing next to me. There's a price on my head in 3 states, though nobody knows it yet. I'm running, Marshal. I'm always running." The confession should have sent him away. Instead, Wyatt reached out and gently tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear, the gesture so tender it made her throat tighten. "I tracked outlaws for 8 years before pinning on this badge," he said. "Lost my family to cholera when I was 19. Rode with some rough men doing rougher things just to survive. We've all got ghosts, Delilah. Question is, are you ready to stop running from yours?" Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, but she blinked them back. How could she explain that everyone she'd ever cared for ended up hurt or dead? That evening, Delilah sat in her small rented room above the millinery shop, staring at a faded photograph. The image showed a younger version of herself, smiling beside a handsome man in an expensive suit. She traced the man's face with one finger, remembering. A knock at her door made her jump. She quickly hid the photograph and retrieved the derringer she kept in her dresser drawer. "It's me!" Wyatt's voice called through the wood. She opened the door a crack, surprised. "It's improper for you to be here, Marshal." "Then I'll be improper." He pushed gently but firmly past her, and she let him, curiosity overriding caution. His expression was troubled. "Tell me about Denver. Tell me about what happened in 1879. Delilah's face went pale. "How did you—" "Telegraph came through today. Pinkerton agent asking questions about a woman matching your description. Said she was involved in a robbery that left 2 men dead." Wyatt's voice remained steady, but his eyes searched hers. "Said she might be traveling under different names. Said she was dangerous. She could run, pack her single bag and disappear into the Texas night." She'd done it before, but something in Wyatt's gaze made her want to stop running just this once, to tell the truth and accept whatever came. "I didn't kill those men," she said finally, her voice hollow. "But I was there. I was engaged to Anthony Graves, a banker's son. I thought I loved him. Turned out he was planning to rob his own father's bank, and he needed someone with steady hands and a cool head to help." She laughed bitterly. "I was young and stupid and believed every pretty word he said." "What happened?" "The robbery went wrong. Anthony and his partner started shooting. I ran. Been running ever since." She met his eyes. "So now you know. I'm exactly the kind of woman a marshal should arrest, not court." Wyatt stepped closer, closing the distance between them. "I think you're exactly the kind of woman worth waiting for." Her breath caught. What was he saying? Delilah shook her head, backing away from Wyatt's advance. "You're not listening. You'll regret loving me." "I've been waiting for you, Delilah Monroe," Wyatt said, his voice firm as bedrock. "Waiting for someone real, someone who's survived and kept their soul intact despite everything trying to break them. I see you, not your mistakes. You!" His words cracked something open inside her chest, something she'd sealed away years ago. "The Pinkertons will come. They'll take me back to Denver to hang. Everyone who helps me will be guilty by association. Your career, your reputation, everything you've built will be destroyed. Then we'll face it together." He reached for her hand, and this time she let him take it. His palm was warm, calloused from years of hard riding and harder choices. "I'm not afraid of your past. I'm only afraid of losing a future we could have." A tear finally escaped, trailing down her cheek. "Why? Why would you risk everything for someone like me?" "Because love isn't about finding someone perfect," Wyatt said softly. "It's about finding someone worth fighting for. And you, Delilah, are worth every battle." She pulled her hand free, turning to the window where rain still streaked the glass. "The Pinkerton agent, when will he arrive?" 3 days, maybe 4, if the spring floods slow him." 3 days. She could run again, disappear into Mexico or California. Or she could stay and let this impossible man try to save her. Both choices terrified her. "I need time to think," she whispered. Wyatt nodded and moved toward the door, but paused on the threshold. "Whatever you decide, I'm not giving up on you. Remember that." After he left, Delilah returned to the photograph, her mind spinning with possibilities and fears. Could she really stop running? Did she dare? This story is heating up. If you're as captivated as we are by Delilah and Wyatt's impossible romance, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Comment below where you're watching from. We love hearing from our global audience. Will love conquer her past, or will she run again? Wyatt spent the next day making discreet inquiries. By sunset, he sat in his office reviewing telegram responses and old wanted posters. The Austin night pressed against his window, crickets singing their endless song. His deputy, a young man named Fletcher, knocked and entered. "You wanted to see me, boss?" "Close the door." Wyatt waited until they were alone. "What do you know about the Denver bank robbery of '79? Fletcher's eyebrows rose. "Heard about it. Big news back then. 2 dead, substantial money stolen. They caught the main perpetrator, Anthony Graves, but his accomplice got away. Why? Because the accomplice might be here in Austin." "You found him?" Fletcher's hand instinctively moved to his revolver. "Not them. Her. And I don't believe she was an accomplice so much as a victim." Wyatt stood, pacing to the window. "Graves manipulated a young woman into helping him. When things went violent, she fled. She's been running ever since." Fletcher studied his boss carefully. "You sound like you believe her story." "I do. And this woman, you know her." Wyatt turned, meeting his deputy's eyes. "I'm going to marry her, Fletcher, if she'll have me." The deputy's jaw dropped. "Boss, if the Pinkertons—" "I know the risks." Wyatt's voice hardened with determination. "But there's another angle. Anthony Graves is still alive, serving time at Yuma Territorial Prison. If I can get a statement from him admitting he coerced her, forced her involvement, we might be able to clear her name." "That's a long shot. Why would Graves confess now?" "Because," Wyatt said grimly, "I have information that might interest him. His partner, the one who actually did the killing, is planning to escape from a Kansas prison next month. If Graves testifies truthfully about what happened, I'll make sure the authorities in Kansas know to be ready. Prevent another killer from going free." Fletcher whistled low. "You'd make that deal? For her?" "I'd make a dozen such deals." The deputy shook his head, but a smile tugged at his lips. "Never seen you like this, boss. She must be something special." "She is. Now help me draft this telegram to Yuma. We have 3 days before the Pinkerton arrives, and I need Graves' confession before then." Hope kindled in Wyatt's chest. Maybe, just maybe, he could give Delilah something she'd never had before, a chance to stop running. Delilah dealt cards mechanically that night, her mind elsewhere. The saloon buzzed with the usual cacophony of laughter, arguments, and clinking glasses, but she heard none of it. She'd made her decision. She would leave at dawn, disappear, before the Pinkerton arrived. It was the only way to protect Wyatt from her catastrophic past. "Your mind's not on the game, dealer," one of the players commented. She forced a smile. "Just tired, gentlemen. Long week?" As midnight approached, she settled her accounts with the saloon owner and climbed the stairs to her room for the last time. Her bag was already packed, hidden under the bed. In a few hours, she'd slip out the back and catch the first westbound stage. But when she opened her door, Wyatt sat waiting in the chair by her window. "How did you pick the lock? Learned at tracking fugitives?" He stood, holding up a telegram. "Before you run, you need to read this." She took the paper with trembling hands, scanning the words by lamplight. It was a statement from Anthony Graves, transcribed by the warden at Yuma Prison. In it, he confessed to everything. How he'd manipulated her, threatened her family if she didn't help, how he alone planned the robbery and did the shooting. He stated clearly that Delilah Monroe was an innocent victim of his schemes. "How did you get this?" she whispered, tears blurring her vision. "Made a deal. Graves wanted information about his former partner's plans. I had it." Wyatt moved closer. "The Pinkerton agent arrives tomorrow. With this confession, you won't be arrested. You'll be cleared. You're free, Delilah, free to stop running." She couldn't speak. The words she'd waited 6 years to hear seemed impossible. But the dead men? Graves confirms he fired the fatal shots. You were his hostage, not his partner. Wyatt cupped her face gently. "You can stay. Build a life here. Build a life with me if you want." The tears came then, years of fear and guilt flooding out. Wyatt pulled her close, letting her cry against his chest while spring rain drummed overhead. When she finally found her voice, it came out broken but honest. "I don't know how to stop running. I've been doing it so long." "Then I'll teach you," he murmured into her hair, "one day at a time, together." Agent Randolph Pierce arrived on the noon stage, impeccably dressed despite the journey. He marched directly to Wyatt's office, his expression radiating professional determination. "Marshal Buchanan, I'm here about Delilah Monroe." Wyatt remained seated, projecting calm authority. "I expected you, Agent Pierce. Coffee?" Pierce waved away the offer impatiently. "I have reason to believe the woman wanted in connection with the Denver robbery is currently in Austin. I need your cooperation in bringing her in." "I'm afraid I can't do that." Wyatt slid the telegram across his desk. "This confession from Anthony Graves changes everything. Miss Monroe was a victim, not a criminal." Pierce snatched up the telegram, reading rapidly. His face cycled through surprise, suspicion, and finally frustration. "This is highly irregular. How did you obtain this?" "Through proper channels and a legitimate exchange of information. You're welcome to verify with Yuma." The agent's eyes narrowed. "You seem awfully invested in protecting this woman, Marshal." "I'm invested in protecting the innocent. That's my job." Wyatt stood, his imposing frame filling the small office. "Now, you can either accept that confession and close your case, or you can waste time pursuing a woman who's already suffered enough. Your choice." Pierce studied him for a long moment, then carefully folded the telegram and tucked it into his coat pocket. "I'll need to interview Miss Monroe myself, get her statement, verify the details. She'll be here in an hour." True to Wyatt's word, Delilah arrived escorted by Deputy Fletcher. She held her head high, despite the fear Wyatt could see lurking in her eyes. For the next 2 hours, Agent Pierce questioned her about every detail of that terrible night in Denver. Anthony's threats, the robbery, her escape. Wyatt remained present throughout, a silent pillar of support. Finally, Pierce closed his notebook. "Your account matches Graves' confession. As far as the Pinkerton agency is concerned, you're cleared of all suspicion. The case is closed." Delilah swayed slightly, and Wyatt steadied her with a hand on her elbow. "It's over?" "It's over," Pierce confirmed, though his expression suggested he wasn't entirely happy about it. "You're free to go. Miss Monroe?" After the agent left, Delilah turned to Wyatt, wonder dawning on her tear-stained face. "I can stay? I can actually stay?" "You can stay," he agreed, smiling. "Question is, will you?" Spring blossoms transformed Austin into a perfumed garden. 2 weeks after Agent Pierce's departure, Delilah stood on the porch of the boarding house, watching the sunset paint the Texas sky in shades of amber and rose. For the first time in 6 years, she felt at peace. Wyatt approached on horseback, leading a second mount. "Feel like a ride?" She smiled, accepting his hand up into the saddle. They rode in comfortable silence to a hill overlooking the town, where wildflowers carpeted the ground in blues and yellows. As the sun dipped lower, Wyatt dismounted and helped her down. "I want to show you something." He pulled a small leather pouch from his saddlebag and extracted a delicate silver ring, its band engraved with tiny flowers. "This was my mother's, only thing I have left of her." Delilah's breath caught. "Wyatt, I know we haven't known each other long," he interrupted, taking her hand. "I know you got every reason to be cautious to protect yourself. But, Delilah, I meant what I said. I've been waiting for you, for someone brave enough to face their past, someone strong enough to survive it, someone real." He dropped to one knee, and tears spilled down her cheeks. "You said I'd regret loving you," Wyatt continued, his voice rough with emotion. "But the only thing I'd regret is not asking you this. Delilah Monroe, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that some gambles are worth taking?" She looked at this impossible man, this lawman who'd risked everything to save her, who'd seen her worst and loved her anyway. All her instincts screamed to protect him by saying no, but louder than fear was something new, hope. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes, Wyatt Buchanan, I'll marry you." He stood and slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that tasted like promise and new beginnings. When they finally broke apart, both were laughing and crying at once. "I don't know how to be someone's wife," she admitted. I don't know how to stop looking over my shoulder." "We'll figure it out together," he assured her. "One day at a time, one sunrise at a time, until you believe you deserve this happiness as much as I know you do." As the stars emerged overhead, they stood together on that hill, two broken people who'd found wholeness in each other's arms. 3 months later, on a perfect June morning, the small church on Austin's main street filled with townspeople. Delilah stood in the back room, adjusting the simple white dress the seamstress had made. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from overwhelming joy. Fletcher poked his head in. "You ready, Miss Monroe? Or should I say almost Mrs. Buchanan?" She laughed, smoothing her skirt one final time. "As ready as I'll ever be." The ceremony was simple, but beautiful. Wyatt stood at the altar in his best suit, his eyes never leaving hers, as she walked down the aisle. When the preacher asked if she took this man to be her lawfully wedded husband, her voice rang clear and certain. "I do." After they exchanged vows and the preacher pronounced them married, Wyatt kissed her to enthusiastic applause. As they walked back down the aisle as husband and wife, Delilah caught sight of her reflection in a window, a woman no longer running, but finally, blessedly home. At the reception, as they cut cake and accepted congratulations, Wyatt pulled her aside for a private moment. "Any regrets yet?" she teased. "Not a single one." He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture achingly familiar now. "Though I should warn you, being married to a marshal isn't easy. Long hours, dangerous work, never quite enough money." "Good thing I'm an excellent card dealer, then," she replied with a grin. "I'll keep us fed." He laughed, the sound rich and warm. "That's my girl, taking on the world one hand at a time." As the sun set on their wedding day, painting the Texas sky in brilliant colors, Delilah reflected on the impossible journey that had brought her here. She'd been so certain that love was something she didn't deserve, that happiness was for other people. But Wyatt had refused to accept her fear. He'd fought for her when she couldn't fight for herself. "What are you thinking?" he asked, holding her close as they swayed to the music. "That I'm glad I stopped running," she said simply. "That I'm glad you were stubborn enough to wait for me." "Always," he promised, kissing her forehead. "I'll always wait for you. I'll always fight for you. That's what love is." And there, in the gathering dusk, surrounded by friends and new beginnings, Delilah finally understood that some gambles weren't gambles at all. They were destiny waiting to unfold. Thank you for joining us on Delilah.